A new study, apropos of all this, by the way, this is a big issue that whoever is our president is going to have to deal with, and going to have to deal with fast, because this not only is corrosive, this not only is a cancer in the American body politic and the American economy, and a social cancer as well, but it also massive levels of inequality where the rich get just wildly richer than the average working person. And as a result of the rich sucking all this money out of the economy, the middle class gets wiped out. This is exactly what happened in 1929. So not only is there a moral dilemma and a political dilemma and all that, but there's an economic dilemma coming as well if history repeats itself and we get another 1929 style crash, because once again, the rich people have taken all the money. New study shows that the richest 400 Americans now earn more wealth than the bottom 60% of us, over 150 million Americans. This is wealth in the order of the European kings of the 18th century, right? This is Louis XVI. It's worse, actually, right now than it was in the 1920s, and that led right to the Great Crash. And this massive transfer of wealth from working people to the very rich was the clear and explicit result of Reaganism and neoliberal policies that have not only left half Americans unable to deal with even a $400 expense and destroyed upward mobility for our kids. They're not doing better than their parents did, first generation ever. But it's also producing a whole spectrum of social ills. This is, we talked with Kate Pickett about this last week on this program, or maybe the week before. They've got this new book about, inequality, and it is destroying. Not only has it destroyed upward mobility, but it's leading to things like divorce, teen pregnancies, suicide, drug addiction, crime. We need to undo Reaganism's tax cuts, the ones that Ronald Reagan did, the ones that George W. Bush did, and the ones that Donald Trump did. Those three presidents' tax cuts, just their tax cuts, account for over $20 trillion missing from our economy, or missing from our federal treasuries. Over $20 trillion. Virtually all of the national debt can be accounted for by the tax cuts of three Republican presidents, Reagan, Bush, and Trump. And then you add to that the $5 trillion that we spent on wars in the Middle East that George W. Bush lied us into. And Trump is saying it's $7 trillion. I'll go with the government figures, $5.5 trillion. It doesn't matter. You add the $5 trillion from the unnecessary war that Bush and Cheney lied us into, and Cheney said, you don't have to put it on the budget. It's going to pay for itself with the oil that we steal. Don't worry. Everything's going to be good. Dick Cheney lied through his teeth, too, as he does. Seems to be the Cheney thing. And what you see is that these three presidents, these three illegitimate presidents, Ronald Reagan cut a deal with the Iranians to get into office. And by the way, I've got a piece up on Common Dreams, it was on Alternate, it might have rolled off, and now it's on Slate, or Salon rather, it just went up on Salon. It's titled, "The Founders Created the Electoral College to Prevent a Foreign Influence Candidate from Winning." And I'm quoting, this is from Alexander Hamilton from Federalist 68. He says, the most deadly adversaries of America will probably make their approaches to seizing control of the United States from more than one quarter, chiefly from the desire in foreign powers to gain an important ascendant in our councils. So who would that important ascendant be? In other words, is a foreign power going to try and get a senator into office? Hamilton writes, how could they better gratify this than by raising a creature of their own to the chief magistracy, the presidency of the Union? So Hamilton was like, okay, the worst thing that can happen to us is if we end up with a president who's actually more interested in working on behalf of foreign power than working on behalf of the United States. And in Federalist 68, he writes, the framers of the Constitution, we have guarded against all danger of this sort with the most provident and judicious attention. So how are they going to do this? They came up with the Electoral College, which would be made up, this is quoting Hamilton again, of persons selected for the temporary and sole purpose of making the appointment. It would be illegal for a senator or House member to become one because, as Hamilton wrote, quote, they have excluded from eligibility to this trust all those who, from situation, might be suspected of having too great a devotion to the president in office. No senator, representative, or other person holding a place of trust or profit under the United States can be a member of the electors. This, Hamilton says, is going to eliminate any sinister bias He says this process of election by the Electoral College affords a moral certainty that the office of president will never fall to the lot of any man who is not in an eminent degree endowed with the requisite qualifications. I mean, he was so proud of himself, Alexander Hamilton. He says, talents for low intrigue and the little arts of popularity may alone suffice to elevate a man to the first honors of a single state. In other words, you know, a hustler can become a governor, but nobody's going to get past the Electoral College, right? He says, but it will require other talents and a different kind of merit to establish him in the esteem and confidence of the men in the Electoral College who will select him as president of the whole Union. He wrote, it would not be too strong to say that there will be a constant probability of seeing that station, the presidency, filled by characters preeminent for ability and virtue because of the Electoral College. Well, it didn't keep Trump out. It's time to nuke it. And also, you know, here we have this problem of just absolutely massive wealth taking over America. What do we do about that? Should we go with Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax? Should we go with I think, I'm not sure if it was Kamala Harris or who else it was who was proposing an income, you know, basically repealing the Reagan taxes. Obviously, Ocasio-Cortez, you know, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has proposed a 70% income tax on income over $10 million. That's kind of a no-brainer. So there's a lot of possibilities here.